Stretching. Cannot emphasize stretching and recovery work enough in the fall. I'd say for stretching, particularly with foam roll and tennis ball, there's no such thing as too much. With traditional stretches, there is a point beyond which you can exceed maximum gain. So if you're doing yoga classes and you're one of those guys or gals who can turn yourself fully into a pretzel, that's probably not going to help you so much for running, which is an elastic motion. So there's kind of a sweet spot in there for running of how much flexibility we want to keep you injury free versus a point beyond which we have lax joints and we have the potential for an injury. However, with typical regular stretching, you're not going to run into that problem. If you're really overdoing it in a yoga class, that's where you're going to run into those challenges. Now, overall, yoga is a fantastic activity. It's just that, again, for lack of a better description, if you're one of those people who can twist yourself into a pretzel, it may not be the most beneficial for you at that point for your running. Now, some key safety tips when it comes to stretches. First, no ballistic or bouncing stretches. So you'll see people at the start of a run or the start of the race, they're horking to the side as fast as they can or in front of them and they're bouncing up and down. Those are the kind of stretches that get you hurt and get you hurt quickly. Additionally, you don't want to do those stretches or any stretches on cold muscles. Cold muscles don't stretch. They tear. So if you're going out for a run and you feel really tight, then you want to first do 5 or 10 minutes in your rebounder in your house, build up a little bit of a stretch, a little bit of a sweat, and then do your stretching, or go around the block first, warm up, get a little bit of walk in, then stretch, and then go out for your run. Just make sure that you don't run on cold, or excuse me, that you don't stretch on cold muscles. Then when it comes to stretching, never go to the point of pain. Now, I've been training stretching at the Olympic Training Center. I've worked with countless athletes on this, and I've even worked with what do you call it? A contortionist, someone whose job it was to twist herself into a pretzel. And the number one rule by all of these people was never go to the point of pain. Only go to mild discomfort. Even if your job is to be a contortionist and be able to do these moves that nobody else can do, you don't want to push to the point of pain, because when you do that, the body pushes or fights back. So instead, you go just till you're uncomfortable, hold for 30 seconds, hold for a minute. You can hold even longer if you want to, and then back off and go again. So now let's talk about some key stretches out there. And I believe we may have some images on the next slide, so forgive me if we have a little bit of a repeat here. The first are hip openers and glute work. If I was to start anywhere with stretching for runners, it'd be working on the hips and working on the glutes. And there are so many great hip opening exercises that you can do. We have a whole series of them in our mindful running series. We can start off with the basics of crossing one leg over the other, pulling and holding in. That's a great way to start. We can start with putting a tennis ball under our glute and just sitting on it. Tennis ball is fantastic. You'll feel how tight you are when you do this until it melts and starts to relax beneath you. You'll know when it melts, because when you first sit on a tennis ball, you're wanting to go, ha. It doesn't feel like much fun. And then that pain starts to go away. Then you move to the next position. If you can spend 10 or 15 minutes a day on hip openers, that would make a huge difference. It opens up your stride. It helps you to run better. It's going to help keep you from getting injured. And working on the glutes, that's where everything attaches. So if you work on your glutes, that would pull to your hips, to your hamstrings, to your calves, pulls up into your back, and even pulls in your shoulders and neck. On top of that, I would work on my hamstrings and my quads. I would go opposing muscle groups there. Working on your hamstrings is very important, not just for protecting your hamstrings and for giving you a better stride, but it turns out that tight hamstrings are one of the number one reasons that we have tight calves. The hamstrings, our body is a kinetic chain, one link pulling on the next, pulling on the next. If you want to, until it gets to the weak link, and that's typically what breaks. Typically that's a calf, an Achilles tendon, or it could even be your plantar fascia on the bottom of the foot. To protect all of those things, we want to go after it with hamstring stretches done nice and light, again, not to the point of pain to begin with, and then go after your quads. If you've been running into knee pain, rolling out over your quads on a foam roll and rolling out on your IT band can be a tremendous help. I'm a big believer in traditional stretches as long as we don't go to the point of pain. I am an even stronger believer in foam roll and tennis ball. Here, there really isn't too much that you can do. With a foam roll, and we have a whole workout in our Mindful Running program, actually in our DVD and in our book on this as well, you can roll out pretty much everywhere on your legs that you can get your hands on and help things loosen up. So for instance, you can go rolling out on your IT band. That's the rope-like connective tissue that goes from your knee or goes from your knee here to your hip and gets really tight. You can roll out on a foam roll nice and slowly, stop when you get to the point of pain, hold it there for 30 seconds to a minute, then continue all the way down. And don't just roll out on the side, roll out three-dimensionally. So go a little bit that way, go a little bit this way, and really go hunting and looking for any point of pain that you can find. Do the same thing, and you can do that on your quads, your hamstrings, your calves. You can do that all up and down the legs. You can even do it onto your back and onto your arms as well. If you've been swimming in the wintertime, it's a fantastic. The foam roll up through your shoulders here is an amazing recovery tool as well. And then a tennis ball. A tennis ball gives you the most grisly, powerful, important stretch that you can possibly get because it goes into that glutes. The glutes, which I mentioned earlier, can pull anywhere throughout the entire body. Tennis ball, super cheap to get. It does an amazing job. If you can do this each day, make a regular habit, make it part of your ritual. You finish your workout on your weights, you immediately go grab your foam roll or tennis ball and roll things out. You will be doing yourself a tremendous service. Come springtime, continue that ritual when you do your runs, and you help keep yourself injury free. Next, let's talk about strengthening your powerhouse or strengthening your core. Because running, in essence, comes from the core. It comes from strong abdominal muscles and a strong back. First, strongest, highest recommendation is find a Pilates class. And there seems to be fewer and farther in between these days, but a Pilates class is functional core strength. It's moving a leg while breathing, while holding your core engaged, and that's exactly what we're looking for. On top of that, do one-legged balance work. Just like I mentioned, we have in our DVDs and our books, we have the exercises I mentioned before, foam roll and tennis ball. We also have all of these different exercises as well. But you don't actually need that to get a lot of the benefits. You can do these on your own. The more one-legged exercises you can come up with, the better. Do it, say, for a month, do it on the ground, then go and get a balance disc and do it on top of that as well. And you can do sets of 10, do for your first week every other day, do 1 set of 10. For your second week, do 2 sets of 10. For your third week, do 3 sets of 10. And I've listed a few of the exercises here if you don't have the opportunity to get one of our programs. The first is side out or leg out. That's an abduction, adduction motion. The second is knee up, bringing your knee up in front of you and down, knee up to about a 90-degree bend or about waist height and down. Leg back, doing the exact thing behind you. Bring your knee to a 90-degree bend, bring it back behind you and back to neutral, back behind you and back to neutral. And then the crossover, which is you're standing with your legs like this, swing one in front, behind, in front, behind. The key here is slow and controlled while keeping that belly button snapped in good and tight to the spine. Initially, you can do it with your arms down by your side. Very quickly, I'd like to see it with your arms locked out into a wing or a plane, or I like to call it eagle wing position here. Again, we have a full program on this. There's only so much we can cover in an hour and a half here, but we do have a full program in that as part of our Mindful Running and part of our Barefoot Running series as well. Pop quiz. What's the most dangerous thing that you can do every day? And if you've heard any of my talks, you may know the answer to this. I'm doing it right now. It is sitting. At this opportunity, you may want to stand up for a second, stretch a little bit, kick those legs out, and get yourself loose before you sit back down, because there is nothing as unnatural in the world as sitting for long periods of time. Sitting reduces circulation, it tightens muscles, it reduces elasticity, it can actually shorten muscles, shorten your Achilles tendon, it shortens your central nervous system, meaning you can be tight in anything that you do. It decreases effectiveness of the lymphatic system. That's your second heart. That's the pump that helps clean and filter the entire body. It decreases the ability to do that, which is why our feet tend to swell throughout the day. Our calves tend to swell as well because we're not getting that fluid back to the heart, which also means we weaken the immune system. And all of these contribute to a greater chance of overuse injuries. I know for myself in particular, I've had a few serious injuries, not running related, over the last few years. And when I'm sitting at the desk, I tend to get these nagging aches and pains that won't go away. And I go training and I come back and I go, I don't know why my knee hurt today. I don't know why my plantar fascia started acting up. That made no sense. And all of these mysterious, nebulous conditions. One day it's in the knee, the next day it's in the hip, the next day it's in the foot. And what that means, that's a sign to me that I'm doing too much at the desk or I'm not moving enough at the desk. So I need to get moving, the move it or lose it principle. And before we jump into that, here's another pop quiz. What happens to someone when you add 1,000 calories a day to their diet? The answer might surprise you. Well, for some people, adding that extra 1,000 calories a day made them look like, well, the slightly supersized gentleman on the scale there. For other people, it does nothing. They don't gain a single pound. What makes the difference? And you might go, I know, metabolism. Well, metabolism's a piece of it, and metabolism definitely makes a difference, as does the mind-body type of the individual. But it goes beyond that, and it has to do with movement. Some people naturally start to move more when they take in more calories. Those people may squirm around more at the desk. They're a little bit more fidgety. They find themselves taking more frequent short breaks, going to the bathroom, going to get water, going to the kitchen. They take the stairs instead of the elevator. They may park further away rather than closer. They may move at a brisker pace to get something to their coworker. All of these things add up to build that extra 1,000 calories. But we don't need to take in an extra 1,000 calories to burden ourselves with it to do these things. All of these activities are fantastic to help us keep loose and keep strong in the wintertime. So be more active even at your desk. First thing, set a timer and take micro breaks. At least 5 minutes on the hour, get up, move about, and stretch. The second thing that you can do is get a stand-up desk or one of the devices that actually props up your computer or monitor, allows it to come back down so that for at least a few minutes of your hour, you're up and working here before you're going back down here. You could even look at getting such things as a treadmill desk, or I love this photo that Jessica found here of the person riding a bicycle and working at their desk. Anything that you can do to get yourself and keep yourself moving. Now, the next question, of course, is can you still exercise while sitting? And the answer is yes. And I cannot recommend it strongly enough, both for sitting at your desk and for athletes. If you're going to be traveling to races in the coming season, do these exercises while you're on your airplane traveling to your big event as well. So the first thing that you want to do when you're sitting, and this can make all the difference in the world for your upcoming season, you want to get a leg up on the competition. What you do in your chair makes the biggest difference. Because if you're only training an hour or two a day, but you're sitting for 8, 9, 10 hours a day, then it only makes sense that if we use that 8 to 10 hours to make improvements in our posture and in our form, that makes a massive difference in our running. So the first thing we want to do is sit with our core engaged. Sit up good and tall. At the beginning, there's this tendency to curl forward, almost to slump down into things. Try to resist it as long as you can, and then once you can't resist it anymore, give it a break, either for a few hours or for the rest of the day. The next day, come back at it strong. You can try to do a little bit more. Jessica found a really fun photo here too, sitting on a balance ball, which helps you to remember to keep that core engaged and to sit nice and tall. She's wearing high heels here. I wish she wasn't, because that's shortening her Achilles, it's shortening her calf, and it's also cramming all her toes together. But at least she's sitting with decent posture. The next thing is you can do an exercise we call 4 directions, where you can turn your head to one side and back, to the other side and back, up and back, and down and back. You can turn that into a breathing exercise as well, which we describe in our mindful running program. But you can do that while you're brainstorming at your desk. That helps lengthen your central nervous system. It helps keep things from getting bound up. And it turns out that all of the energy in your body has to pass through the neck. So the more that we keep this loose, the more we keep this loose, the more you're going to be able to think clearly, keep the anxiety at bay, and have those creative ideas. You can also do a rotating pelvis exercise, where you're just rotating down and back, just like that. You can also work on tighten the core, relax the core, tighten the core, relax the core. You can work on bending your legs, bringing the heel up underneath you. You can work at doing the reverse, extending your legs in front of you. You can do abduction and adduction, legs out, knees in, knees out, knees in, and you can even do a swish to the side. You're going to one side, going to the other side. It means I stand a lot less chance of an overuse injury. I feel a lot fresher too at the end of the day, less fatigued as well. Yes, sitting in your chair is also a great time to practice belly breathing. And there is no better time to practice it, which is to imagine your belly as a bellows, one of those things that they stoke the flames with. In, out, and you expand your belly as you're sitting at your desk, take in all the air that you can. It's the bottom of your lungs. Your lungs are like a pyramid where the most efficient air transfer takes place. And then squeeze that belly button to the spine and exhale all the air you can. Do it as much as you can through the nose. As you're working, work on both belly breathing and slowing down the breath as much as you can. The slower you get your breath while working, the more mindful or the more focused you become. You're going to find yourself more productive at work, less stressed out, more in the zone or in that present moment, and able to come up with the great ideas just by focusing on your breath. And yes, I admit it, I am completely fanatical about nasal breathing. To me, if there was one most important thing I could do to change your running and really to change your life, it'd be to focus on breathing through the nose. Why is that? Well, very simply, the nervous system works with either the fight or flight response or the rest, relax, and digest response. It's the difference between the sympathetic nervous system, that's where we get out the fire hose, we're the firefighter looking for the emergencies, trying to put them out, or we're working with the parasympathetic, I want to digest foods, I want to take a nap, I want those kind of best ideas to come to me. When we're breathing through the mouth, something that we started doing as a kid when we first got our first infections, our first cold, our first chest cold or stuffed up nose, we started breathing through the mouth with fits and gasps, and we triggered our fight or flight response. Since then, we've always used mouth breathing for fight or flight response. It means our anxiety levels go up, our heart rate goes up, our blood pressure goes up, we constrict our blood vessels, we take blood away from the brain and ability to think. And we really set ourselves up for either failure or, at the very minimum, not feeling so good. Fight or flight response, it also puts out cortisol, the stress hormones in your body, which certainly does not allow you to think very clearly. Instead, your brain goes hunting for problems. You're constantly on a heightened state of alert. If instead we breathe through the nose, it calms everything down. It puts you in that rest or relax or digest place. It allows you to see things more clearly. You're almost slowing the world down around you. Stress and anxiety goes down. Your blood pressure goes down. your heart rate goes down, and your body has ability to catch up to rest and relax. Yes, nasal breathing, it's going to lower your heart rate, your blood pressure. It burns more fat. Why does it burn more fat? Well, the fight or flight response works on sugar. Your body's going to dump a ton of sugar into the bloodstream so that you have something to burn now, immediately, this second. And then it's going to hoard all the fat it can. What we want to do is burn the nice, long, steady state fuel. That's fat that comes in the parasympathetic nervous system or through the nose. You don't burn fat when you're fight or flight response. So if you want to get to be a more efficient runner, you want to learn how to breathe through your nose. You're also going to burn less oxygen. Your heart rate's going to be lower. Your blood pressure is going to be down. You burn less oxygen going through your nose, which means, well, in essence, your VO2 max is up. You have more oxygen to use later on when you're running and when you're running fast. We've mentioned it engages the rest or relax response. It also builds your CO2 buffering system. This is critically important. People always think, well, I want to blow off CO2. I want to get rid of it as fast as we can. No, 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 no. That's called hyperventilation. Hyperventilating is a big no-no. It's why when you see somebody freaking out, they give them a paper bag to try to slow their breathing down. Because when you blow off too much CO2, you actually can't get in oxygen. Carbon dioxide sends the signal to the body to open the blood vessels, to open up the muscles, and to allow oxygen to come in. It's a vasodilator. It means it opens up. Without CO2, you have a vasoconstriction. It closes everything down, which means that the more we can get used to having a certain amount of CO2, having a comfortable amount of CO2 in our bloodstream, the more, rather than less, it sounds counterintuitive, the more oxygen we're going to be able to get into our bloodstream and get into our muscles. This is why it's so critically important to focus on nose breathing activities. And it's why I called it simulated high altitude training. Because when we breathe through the belly, that's more of a gas exchange. And when we breathe through the nose, that builds up CO2, then we're getting more oxygen into the muscles and into our bloodstream to allow our heart and other muscles to be able to function. Now, in the beginning, it's going to be difficult. We're not used to, we're actually incredible lightweights in the beginning to holding on to CO2. It feels really uncomfortable. So in the beginning, when you start nose breathing, you're going to have this tendency to want to gasp or to open up your mouth as quickly as you can. Don't worry, you're not running out of oxygen. That's just your body. Your body actually doesn't tell you when you're running low of oxygen. It just goes to a certain point and then it conks out. What it does tell you is when you're holding on to more CO2 than is comfortable. At that point, focus on taking a deeper, slower breath and slowing down the activity. You can practice this when you're doing a spin class, an aerobics class, Zumba, treadmill workouts. In fact, for treadmill workouts, see if you can do this where you don't exceed the ability to breathe through your nose. So when you're having to take a slower, deeper breath and you feel right on edge, back down the speed just a little bit. You can also do this at night, something you can work into. Like I said, I'm fanatical about this. The changes that it's made in my fitness have been beyond night and day, using cloth tape over the mouth to help you practice nasal breathing while you sleep. Now let's talk briefly about a holiday diet and how you can survive the holiday season without putting on more than a few pounds. And this is something that we're probably going to expand into a whole nother webinar all to itself. First, a note on fluids, which is if you want to burn fat, get enough water into your system and get enough water into your system first thing in the day. So I recommend drinking lots of water first thing in the morning, at least 32 ounces. It sounds like a lot. In the beginning, it feels like a lot, and preferably warmed up or just below the temperature of a hot tea, because this actually helps melt the fat that's stuck in your digestive tract and helps flush it out of your system. So drink that, wait for about 30 to 45 minutes before you go into your first meal. And then I highly recommend that you keep drinking water throughout the day. It keeps you better hydrated, keeps you less hungry. You're going to have to pee more, which means you're going to get up and move about more. That's good. You're less sedentary. I recommend adding just a pinch of sea salt to your water. This helps keep the mineral content up. It's very rare, but in theory, you could overdrink pure water and get yourself into a hyponatremic position or a condition where your electrolytes are out of balance. A pinch of sea salt in your water, that's not going to raise your blood pressure, but it's going to do a lot of great stuff for you because we can always use more minerals in our bodies as well. On top of that, choose your holiday drinks wisely. If there's one thing you can do to reduce your caloric intake through the holiday season is to go with straight water. Straight water has no excess calories to it. Now, if you find straight water, like I can hear my dad watching this and going, water is boring, water doesn't taste good. Well, spritz it up with a little bit of lime, with a little bit of lemon, with a tiny bit of apple cider vinegar, add in that sea salt, and you'll find some great tasting, pinch of sea salt, it actually makes the water taste sweeter, some great tasting sweet water, but without any extra calories. Okay, schedule your meals early on. This is a huge one. There's a time that your body can digest foods the best instead of turning it into fat, and that's midday toward early evening. If you think of your body as a flame, as a candle, in the beginning of the day, let's say that it's a campfire. In the beginning of the day, it's just smoldering. It doesn't have much energy. It's not a big flame, if any flame at all. That's not the time to digest heavy foods. That's the time to have a light meal or time to have a nice, delicious green smoothie, add some ginger, add some turmeric, add some kale to it, make it warm rather than very cold. That's the time for the light meal. Midday, that temperature, that fire is on strong. It's like the midday heat. You have the best ability to digest foods, to get the most nutrition out of them, and to burn those fats. So that's really what you want your biggest meals of the day, or time towards midday, or really towards early evening. And I'm talking more the 4 to 5 o'clock range, definitely not later than that. Later in the day, the flame's down low. You can't digest very well. In fact, in the evening, it's your time for your body to detox and rebuild. If it's stuck with a heavy meal in your gut and having to do that, it can't detox, it can't rebuild, and everything gets put into fat because it doesn't have the ability to do much else with it at that time of the day. It just can't burn it away. So that's your least effective time to eat, which means that you want to stay away from the evening munchies. Carbs beget carbs, and sugars beget sugar. What does that mean? It means if you're a little bit hungry, particularly early in the evening, and you have a snack food, you have a dessert, and I'm not opposed to rewarding yourself, go for it. You've earned it. You deserved it. But be very aware or mindful of your body. Because if you have a little treat, instead of feeling satiated, instead of feeling full, chances are you're going to feel hungrier. That's why sugar begets sugar and carbs beget carbs. Now, corn syrup, that's taking it to a whole different level. That's rocket fuel, or that's a drug, really. Now, sugar, technically, that's a drug, but corn syrup goes way beyond that to, if you have a food, let's say it's a TV dinner, something like that, or a bowl of soup, and you can't understand why you finished it, and now you're ravenous. You're out of your mind hungry. I gotta have more. I need more of this. I need double. I need triple. Check the ingredients. Chances are there's some corn syrup, there's some rice syrup, there's some sort of hidden syrup in there, which means chemically processed fructose in there that is completely short-circuiting your pancreas and your body's ability to regulate sugar in your bloodstream. And so more doesn't want a little more wants a lot. So watch out for that. Can you guess what I'm going to suggest you do after a meal? This is a bit hard midday, but it's the greatest thing for digestion. Dun, dun, dun. If you can, lay down for 5, 10, even 15 minutes on your left side. That's the side that all of your digestive organs are on. It gets more blood flow to there, and it really helps kick-start the digestive process. You ate a big meal, you don't want it to turn to fat, lay down to 10 to 15 minutes on the left side, and then relax or meditate at least for 20 minutes if you can, once, if not twice a day. And that's something we go into tremendous more detail on mindful running and easy ways to meditate that really help your running and can turn your running into running meditations. Because what happens when you meditate or when you relax is you take your body out of the fight or flight mode, you put it back in the rest and digest mode, and we go from storing and hoarding fat, particularly around the belly, that's called visceral fat, to burning fat and burning it much more efficiently. So who would have thought that taking time of not doing exercise could actually help you burn more fat, but it can. Next is let's talk briefly about keeping your immune system strong, because all too often, in fact, almost everybody inevitably gets sick during the fall and winter season, but it certainly doesn't have to be. In fact, it's something that I've almost entirely done away from, and it's not that I'm anything special or that I have the strongest immune system in the world, but I do a lot of immune system support work. So one thing you can do is nose breathe in the cold. That's your filtration system. That's what keeps your lungs from being traumatized. You've got all these hairs up here. They're in there for a reason, to help keep the air clean, to help purify it, and to keep the lungs from getting shocked. Make sure you stay warm. If you find yourself getting cold, immediately get some hot water into you. Get some tea into you. Can't recommend getting real stimulants into you, because that has a whole slew of other challenges. So some decaf or some herbal tea. And if that's not enough, then take a hot shower or bath. When you get inside after a cold weather run, warm up fast. Take a hot shower, take a hot bath, and then make sure your body isn't acidic. This is something I'm also going to go into in another program later on, another webinar, along with what to eat, which is if our body is acidic, if we've been eating a lot of foods high in protein and high in carbs, an acidic environment is an environment that allows colds and other wee beasties to grow. Conversely, a basic environment, one that's promoted by more vegetables, by more greens, by things lower on the glycemic index, that basic environment snuffs out the fire that things can grow in. So that's what helps keep your immune system strong. Eat lots of great natural immune system boosting foods, such as garlic, such as onions, such as having a little bit of apple cider vinegar. If you need to eat something sweet, take just a tiny bit of honey if you can, because that has natural antibiotic properties in it as well. And watch the rest, which means each morning have a log of your heart rate. Check your resting heart rate when you get up first thing in the morning. I like to strap on a heart rate monitor so I can look at it on the watch, so I can't cheat and I can just relax into it. And then I note it. If your heart rate is up by more than 10 meets, skip the day's workout no matter what. It means your body is fighting a mild infection or needs to recover from something. If you add workout there, that's adding insult to injury, and that's when you're going to get sick. So if your heart rate is, say, 60 or let's say 65 beats in the morning, and the next day you get up and it's 77 or 79, whoa. Rest today, call it good. The next day, chances are it'll be back down in that 65 range and go again. Try and wind down a bit earlier in the evening. The best thing that you can do is follow the natural cycles of the day. Once the sun sets, start to dim the lights a little bit more, a little bit, then a little bit more, then a little bit more. You can even dim your computer screen, and then finally get away from the screen, get away from the bright lights entirely. Spend the last half hour or hour reading if you want, but not on something that's stimulating with light. What this does is allows you to get into a deeper sleep faster. Again, detox and rebuild through the night to help you start the next day fresh. It's also why it's so important not to eat a big meal before you go to sleep, or you're spending the time while you're sleeping instead of pimping up the machine, so to speak, or sort of like a computer, instead of its ability overnight to clean out the system, to put in a new operating system, to get itself strong. Instead, it's busy dealing with a virus that's in there. Strange analogy, but it's true, is we want to give your body a chance to rest and rebuild overnight. And then remember, a single workout missed, even a week of workout missed, won't do you harm. You really don't start to lose any aerobic benefits until about 2 weeks of aerobic workouts mixed, and then you only reduce by about 6% after 2 to 3 weeks. So you can afford to take time off if you're under heavy stress, if your body feels weak and you feel run down. Just try not to make it a habit. Conversely, make sleep your most sacred religious habit out there. Get to bed at the same time each night, wake at the same time each night. Be like a bird. That's exactly what they do, because it's when we go out of sync with our natural rhythms, that's where like we're atop spinning and wobbling, and eventually we fall. If we go to sleep at the same time each night, and that may mean that you need to actually set a timer or 2 timers or even 3 timers to remind you to get to bed at the same time each night. It can make a dramatic difference in your health. And last, if you're stuck indoors all winter, who isn't? Consider an air cleaner or an air cleaner with an ionizer. Our favorite tends to be the Mammoth. It has an ionizing setting where we can turn it on. It's like being an electrical storm in the house, but it kills all the molds and other germs that are in the air, and it feels like a thunderstorm has just passed on by, and it helps keep the air clean, which helps keep our immune system strong. You can even bring one of those in and put it next to you at work as well. So now when it comes to wintertime, set yourself up for success. This doesn't mean working out harder. This doesn't mean being more disciplined. It means playing more. Find the workouts that are fun for you to do. There's no best thing out there. If you like an aerobics class, do it. If you like a Zumba class, do it. If you like martial arts, do it. If you like something like masters swimming, go for it. That's a huge benefit for your aerobic system, for your CO2 buffering system, for your upper body. Maybe you like dance, or you've always thought, oh, I'd love to take a dance class someday, or I wish I had taken a dance class as a kid. Now's your time to do it. In fact, ballet and dance classes are some of the best ways to get in shape for running, get great balance for running, and work on all of your small muscle groups. So go for it. If you can't find anything fun to do, come up with your own game or activity and invite your friends. Q&A. I now want to open it up to questions and answers. And I'm sure you have some good questions out there, anything about the webinar, about mindful running. Any questions that you might have, you can type your questions on GoToMeeting, and they're going to get given to me right now, and we will go over them.
Okay, so the first question I have here is, if I'm planning on racing in the spring, would you recommend skipping some winter races and focusing on building my foundation stronger?
That's an excellent question. If you're racing in the spring, would you recommend skipping the winter racing? And this is a tough one. My answer is pretty strong, but there's a key component that we need to take into account. So what I recommend is either you cut out the racing in the winter time, or we back it off and use it as part of your regular training, which means not going for placement, but taking it as more of a social run or a social activity. The only caveat that I would make to that is we are runners. That means we run on heart and we run on passion. If you're 100% healthy right now, if you're feeling strong going into the off season, and it's what makes your heart sing or soar, it's what you've been looking forward to all year long, like a New York Roadrunners series through the winter time. If that's going to give you the greatest joy in the world, then you have to forget everything else and you have to go for it. But given the opportunity to race the rest of the year and the opportunity to build the foundation strong now, I'd recommend either cooling the jets or holding off till springtime. If you think about it this way, if we hold you off till springtime, you are going to be so fast come spring because you are going to want it so badly.
Thank you. The next question is, what is the best way to start running if you have not run for a while?
Ooh, great question. If you haven't started running for a while, I want you to start with very small bite-size amounts. Ideally, I'd like to see 1 to 2 minutes the first day and then add a minute every other day. Even better, if you can in this fall, this off season right now, let's get 4 to 6 weeks of walking and strength training and core work and balance work under our belt first, and then start into some very mild, short jogging. If we build the foundation strong now, it'll come on very quickly after that. The foundation means so much, but then add a minute to 2 minutes every other day max. And for the first 4 to 6 weeks, at a minimum, only go every other day. This gives your body the maximum chance to rest and recover. During that time, focus on form. Look at your form if you're on a treadmill, look at it in a mirror, film yourself with a camera, get other people's advice, videotape yourself and send it to a coach. Do whatever you can do to get your form analyzed by yourself or by a pro early on to make sure you're setting yourself up, meaning you're giving yourself good, healthy habits, because once we start putting speed on top of it, we want to already have things in place. It's a simple example. If you have one knee going out to the side at slow speed and we can catch it now, that's pretty easy. Before, boom, 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 we have it going out to the side at high speed, and now we've really ingrained that bad habit, which means an injury in the making. Much better to work on great form now. On top of that, here's a bonus for you. Get in the pool and start aqua jogging. We can do that right away. Start again with a minute or two and add another minute or two every other day, but you can start doing that in the off season. There is no weight bearing, so that we don't have to worry about as much about the overuse injuries. We're also working the small muscle groups to try to help keep everything in alignment. Aqua jogging, you can start almost immediately. You can make huge gains doing it. And one of the things that you can do the best at aqua jogging is work on nasal breathing and deep belly breathing so that you can really supercharge that aerobic engine even before you're running very much.
Okay, the next question is, I've read that you're vegan, so I was wondering about your upcoming webinar on eating smarter to run faster. It sounds interesting, but is it going to be vegan or vegetarian based? I'm happy staying a meat eater.
That is a fantastic question, and I love that it is asked or referred to me by my loving wife, who is not a vegan. Here's what it comes down to, folks. You don't have to be a vegan. You don't have to be a vegetarian. You have to eat the highest quality food sources that you can. You have to eat the food sources that support you and work with you rather than against you. So you certainly don't need to be a vegan. You don't need to be a vegetarian to get the benefits out of this. It does mean smarter food choices, and it does mean looking at the origin, where that food is coming from, what it is, whether it's organic, whether it's locally sourced, all that good stuff. But you certainly don't need to go and get rid of all of the meat. In fact, though I am a vegan myself and I love it, it's my lifestyle choice as well as my diet, it's certainly not for everyone. And I know that's going to sound sacrilege out there to some people, but there are certain people who do very poorly on a vegan diet. And I'm very much becoming a believer of Ayurvedic mind-body systems when it comes to diet. And what that means is there are basically three main mind-body types. Certain types are going to be doing better on a vegan diet than other types. And there's no reason to judge or say, well, if you're not vegan, you're not going to do well because of, or if you're a meat eater, you're going to not do well because of. That's all silliness. It's all nonsense. But what we are going to talk about is your overall comprehensive diet and how to supercharge that, whether you're meat-based, plant-based, or whatever based, as long as it's not chemical based.
Okay, the next question we have here is, hi Michael, thank you so much for an informative webinar.
Welcome.
I'm simply wondering if you're going to be offering any mindful running training events coming up.
Oh, that is an excellent question. I know we're going to hold a very limited private event coming up. I'm not sure the exact details of that yet. If you're interested, email me about that. That one is going to be a very, very small group, so that's not going to probably be the most cost effective for people out there. Next year, we may have some additional events. I'm not sure what that's going to look like yet. I love one-on-one coaching. I love getting in front of a group and being able to work with people hands-on. So I'm hopeful that we will have that, but they're not in the schedule yet. If you are interested, though, email us, let us know. I highly recommend get started with the Mindful Running Training Program. That'll give you a leg up in whatever we have coming down the road.
The next question begins, thank you so much, Michael. My question is, what specific things can you do if you plan on doing a marathon in the middle of next year?
Woohoo! First off, congratulations. Doing a marathon is an awesome thing. It is a lot of fun. I recommend really focusing on the foundation this time of year. I wouldn't worry too much about the miles this time of year. You can start building them up ever so gradually. Much more important to get the strength work in, to get the core work in, to get the one-legged work in. Then once we get to about January 1st, then we're going to very gradually start putting in the miles. I highly recommend, if it's your first marathon, that we look on focusing on duration first before we work on intensity and working on good form. If we get you doing half the miles of a normal training program and get you going into a marathon with good form, you're going to do twice as well as going in with the full miles under your belt, but with half as good a form. Form is everything. And so we really want to work on that. And that's by working on strength and core work now. Then come January 1st, we're going to start to build up from there. And we're going to have a marathon webinar. And we're going to have a bonus material on that coming up as well.
The next question is, hi, Michael. Your thoughts on nasal breathing are intriguing. I can see breathing through the nose at a slow jogging pace, but I can't imagine doing it at 80% effort or more.
Neither could I. Breathing at nasal breathing at a high rate of speed or at a high heart rate seemed completely counterintuitive to me, particularly as somebody who grew up as an asthmatic and with a deviated septum. It seemed completely insane to me. In fact, just switching over to nasal breathing seemed completely insane to me because of the fear factor that I had to deal with of I'm not going to be able to get in enough air. Well, in the beginning, it's true. It's true, but it's not. It's not that you're not able to get in enough air. It's that you don't feel that you're able to blow off enough carbon dioxide. But that quickly changes as your physiology changes, as you're able to buffer more carbon dioxide, and you'll be able to do more gas exchange more efficiently and more quickly, for lack of a proper English term. So that changes. Over time, you are going to be able to work at 100% effort with nasal breathing. But something really cool happens in the process. Because what happens is your heart rate at maximal effort drops. Yeah, it goes down. And what that means is you're burning less oxygen at maximal effort. So you have more in reserve. You have muscles that are burning less, that are tightening less. And in a sense, you have something left in the tank. So maybe before it was you were racing and you're able to do a 6 or a 7 minute mile. Your heart rate was 175 beats per minute with a fight or flight breathing response. Well, now I go into a parasympathetic rest and relax response, and I drop your heart rate down to a whopping 155 or 160. Usually it's about a 20-point difference. And all of a sudden, you don't feel like you're going nearly as hard. And you look, and you're at 6 or 7 minute pace, you're on PR pace. And that's what happens if we build into it slowly, which means initially we start at going at like 10% pace. Can I do that while slowing down? The goal is to slow down the breathing and breathe through your nose. Then can I do it at 20% pace while keeping the breathing slow and deep? Then 30%, and my breathing's starting to get fast and shallow. Back it down to 25, then go up and up and up. Letting your breath through your nose be your coach and letting it be your guide. And you'll work your way up in about 6 to 12 weeks to be able to breathe 100% through your nose. And the difference is it's beyond night and day. You will never go back.
Great. Thank you, Michael. The next question is, do you always run barefoot or do you run with shoes?
A great question and sacrilege for our barefoot runners out there. I believe there's a time and a place for everything. So on really rocky terrain and sharp terrain, I'm going to be in a shoe. If it is out here, there's a lot of sharp volcanic lava, I'm going to be in a shoe. It really depends on the speed and the terrain, what I want to do. Now, with that said, in general, I like the connection that I get to the earth. The earthing benefit, everybody's heard about earthing these days, about how it decreases inflammation, it decreases stress and anxiety levels, and it decreases cortisol levels. So I want to be in touch with the earth as much as I can because that does so many great things for my body and it boosts my immune system. With that said, if I want to go out for a fast run on difficult terrain, maybe I'm going to have a shoe on. If I'm working on balance work or core work or doing some really gnarly terrain, then I'm definitely going to have a shoe on. Now on basic pavement, unless it's really, really cold out, that's the one time, unless I'm racing, that chances are I'm going to be fully barefoot because I can land so much lighter. I can feel the ground and really use each toe as an individual spring on my foot. Anything you put on your foot, no matter how minimalist they call it, changes your stride. And in general, I want to change the stride as little as possible. With that said, there's a time and a place for everything. I just like to be very particular about what I wear on my feet.
Thanks, Michael. The next question is, it sounded as if you were advising that we reduce our caloric intake during the winter. But if we're really practicing everything you advise with the strength work and core work, wouldn't we need these additional calories?
A great question. What I'm advising you to do is not reduce your caloric intake. I'm trying to keep you from increasing too dramatically your caloric intake. So you want to keep about the same amount of calories that you have now if you're at a nice, stable, healthy weight. I'm not a big believer in becoming an emaciated twig of a runner. As a professional athlete, I've actually run into eating disorder challenges myself, as have many other athletes that I've worked with, and had to get them onto a healthier, more relaxed eating routine. It's too dangerous of a habit to lapse into. And as you're saying, when you're trying to build, that's not the time to be trying to shave off weight. But in the wintertime, it's so easy to be offered additional calories here, additional calorie there, sweet there, a treat there, and your body is going to be asking for more because it's trying to put on more insulation. That it means we need to keep an eye on things. And one of the fastest, easiest, best ways that we can keep an eye on things is to cut out the sweet drinks.
Okay, there are a few more questions, but I think we need to cut it off here as we're well over 2 hours. So if people have questions, they're always welcome to visit our Facebook page and post there or send us a private message. So the last question is, and after this, we still have the snow to call bonus. But the last question is, this is a funny one. What is that piece of black tape doing on your shirt?
Hey, that is a great question for me. This is a shirt that actually says Run Bear underneath, and right now we're doing a mindful running program, so I do have it covered up for that, but da 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 da. We are still proud Run Bear founders and co-founders. We just don't have a mindful running shirt. So I guess with the bright light, with the regular light, you can't actually see that. So that's a good eye for picking it up. I'm guessing with the 1,000, I think it's probably literally 1,000 LEDs blasting me right now, it probably looks really silly. So thank you for pointing that out.
That person just wrote another comment and said, I thought it was a Nike symbol.
Okay, let's be completely honest here. We do what's called Greeking out things for a lot of our videos. It's a term that came, as best as I know, from the entertainment industry, where they don't want to promote logos or brands or get sued by promoting logos or brands when they're not supposed to. And so for lots of footwear things that we do and other things, we will Greek out, well, I'm not sure why it's called Greek. I hope that's not a racist term when I look back at the origins of it. We will block out those things so it's not a distraction, and so no one particular brand is being blamed on or anything of the sort. With that said, I have had a few favorite pairs of shorts that have had logos on it that I didn't want to show. And in famous pro athlete style, you went about pulling it off, blocking it off, black magic marking it off, or doing whatever you could so that you looked a little more neutral. But excellent, excellent point.
That's it, Michael. Thank you.
All right, so let's wrap things up with a favorite topic for barefoot runners out there, and to everybody else out there, thank you so much for joining me and joining us here today. Let's talk about snow to call, because I love running in the snow. I love running in extremes, extreme hot, extreme cold. And I love being barefoot in the snow as well, particularly as I was mentioning earlier, late fall snows and early spring snows as well. For snow to call, to get into running in the snow barefoot, the best way is to very gingerly step into it. And by that, what you want to do is really warm up well on a treadmill or stairs beforehand. Get yourself beat red and hot. Break a really good sweat before you send yourself outside. When you go outside, make sure you're layered up well. Now, this little guy that you're seeing here, that's me running in the snow in Boulder. I'm violating at least a couple safety rules here. I would recommend my legs completely covered and my head completely covered to get myself extra warm. Here, it's okay if you're sweaty because we're going to be heading inside quickly. In this case, I was just so used to these conditions that I could turn myself kind of beet red and hot at a moment's notice, which is why I didn't have anything in my legs. So I was going to be running fast and I didn't want anything encumbering my stride. Start with about 3 to 5 minutes max. So you get off of the treadmill, you get off of running up and down your stairs into home, head out the door and literally run around a small block or go out and back something that's a very, very short distance. Ask yourself how you're feeling. Ask yourself, how long can I go for? And that time, you may feel tingling underfoot. It may feel a burning sensation. It may feel really darn cold. But unless it's the dead of winter or unless you're in the real northern latitudes, chances are you can't hurt yourself, and at least your first go round with that short time. So get back inside as fast as you can, get warm back up on that treadmill or on the stairs, and then ask myself, do I feel like I can go out again? And if the answer is no, stop right there, you're done. If the answer is yes, you can do this 1 to a maximum 2 more times to begin with, and then call it good. You're done for the day. In fact, you're done for a couple days. Whether it's hot weather in the summertime or cold weather in the wintertime, you don't want to do back-to-back days before your body has fully gotten used to or adapt to it. So your feet get cold. We need to give them a couple days to rest and build stronger. Your capillary flow, your capillaries are going to open up. You're going to get more capillary growth. You're going to get more blood flow down to the area, which is awesome for your year ahead and even for the heat and the peak of the season ahead or peak of the summer ahead. But we need to give it time to do that rebuilding to grow back strong. Make sure the surface that you're running of is free of rock salt. If you see people sprinkling something on the sidewalk to keep it devoid, you can see in this picture here, I'm running on the snow rather than running on the sidewalk. That sidewalk has rock salt on it. Rock salt is a meat tenderizer. It'll rip up the bottom of your feet and do it fast. So if there's rock salt, do not be in those conditions. And if it is, get in and off of that before it softens up your skin and tears it right off. Or that's when you run the risk of stepping on something else and having that go into your foot. Never venture far from home as you transition. If you're going 3 to 5 minutes from home, 3 to 5 minutes at a time max, you shouldn't be able to violate that rule. And though this picture doesn't show it, keep your head covered well. In fact, when I was out on this run, later on in this run, I actually, I was so warm that I started to melt the snow off of my hair, and then it started freezing and forming these kind of hairicles on my head. That started to get really cold. So make sure your head's covered really well. In fact, you can see I have almost a boxing glove on here because keep those extremities warm. I like wearing having a hand warmer in my gloves when I'm running barefoot in the cold. The warmer I can keep my hands, the warmer I can keep my head, the warmer I can keep my feet. And then, yeah, smile, have fun with this. People are going to be staring at you. And yeah, if you're running barefoot in the snow, unless it's a late springtime snow, chances are you probably are a little nuts. That's okay. So am I. Have fun with it. So that's all I've got from here. Whoa, we're going the wrong direction. We've taken all the questions we can answer for now. I want to thank you all so much for joining me here. I hope to see you in the Mindful Running Training Program. It's an incredibly special program. It is coming from all heart, and we've never made anything like it before. Carry you through step by step. It's truly life transformative. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much again for joining us. Thank you, Jessica, for putting this on. Thank you, Richard, for organizing this. And to everybody out there, follow us on Facebook, follow us on our Mindful Running Facebook page, follow us on our blog, on our Run Bear page. And I want to tell everybody out there, be mindful, have fun. Thank you again, and build this fall and winter and run free. Thank you, guys.